So in order to understand why the significance of everything I'm going to tell you today, I want you to picture yourself in Hiroshima after the bomb fell. And if there's rubble all around you, many people didn't survive. What would you do? What's your next move? What do you do? You have money, you have a motor vehicle, there's someplace else you can get to easily, you have who to go to. Repair would have to do with other people, physical repair of the rubble. Another possibility that a lot of people are going to go to is despair and anger. Could you see, like, where are the authorities? Where's somebody else? I can't live like this. This is crazy. Where are they? Where are they? Where are they? Where are you? Could picture that? Think one more response. These are the two extreme responses. There's a middle place. Okay, a middle place would certainly include prayer, but it would be the same as the first, but with a different twist. Who am I supposed to be now that I was spared? I don't know how much rubble I can clear. I don't know how many people who I could help, but I could decide who I am. I'm going to give you an example of the first one. Let's clear the rubble. Let's build things up. Okay. So if you look at the effect of the tsunami, who did that? Who chose that? So I want to tell you something important for you to understand. Not the people who lived in Thailand. Other people came to that conclusion. You understand this? Because the people in Thailand, for reasons that are understandable, stayed in the other extreme, anger, despair. Okay, other people said we have to do it. An example of the middle ground, which is the best of all of the options, okay, would be somebody like Viktor Frankl. Did any of you read anything he wrote? Do you know who I'm talking about? So his continual question during the Holocaust when he was in Auschwitz is, who should I be now? Who do I have to be? So for him, the answer is, I'll be myself. He was a psychologist. He would analyze people. He would try to understand the situation as much as a human person can do. Okay, clear? Okay, so he discovered that when he was studying people, and he did this to stay sane, okay, two extremes. People who are most likely to commit suicide, people who are least likely to commit suicide. What do you think the person who's most likely to commit suicide, what's that person like? What age, what gender, what lifestyle? So here's his study person. This person epitomizes who's likely to commit suicide. Okay, he was the leader of the Berlin Philharmonic. So you're not talking about somebody who's very old, but you're also not talking about somebody 22. Okay, the day he was arrested, he was no longer the leader of the Berlin Philharmonic. So to him, that meant he had no identity. And once he had no identity, he had no reason to live. You understand this? So the question, so who could I be in this moment? He had no answer to that question. The only self he knew how to be was the leader of the Berlin Philharmonic. Okay, clear? Who do you think would be most likely to survive? Tell me again. Gender, age, lifestyle.
Young, poor.
So you're saying young, poor. Which gender?
Woman.
Woman. What lifestyle?
Simple.
Simple. So here's where his analysis became a little bit more complex. The gender is certainly female. Motherhood was the deciding factor. It didn't matter what lifestyle, didn't matter what age. It didn't matter if the children were still living or not, which I find fascinating. So you're not talking about women who were living for their children. In most cases, the children were immediately taken from their mothers and killed. But anyone who knows how to nurture is more likely to survive because they still have an identity. You understand this? Okay, so those were his conclusions. So I want to take you to Noach at the time of the flood. He had choices to make. So anger and despair would have been very natural when he saw the level of desperation there was. He went to that direction to a certain degree. What was the very first thing that he tried to do when he was restarting the world? What was the new beginning? What does he plant? A vineyard. Why did he plant a vineyard? To get drunk. Okay, clear? So he did go that way to some degree, which was a mistake. Now, the effect of drinking alcohol, which I'm sure you have no idea of, so I feel it's my responsibility to tell you, is even if a person feels that they're like more alive and like more social and happier or less happy, whatever it is, they're really less so. Okay, so the effect of drinking is it puts your mind to bed and it leaves your emotions and your subconscious state to take over. So it says that the difference between the wicked and the righteous is that righteous people have their mind rule their emotions, while wicked people are ruled by their emotions. So the reason why people put their minds to sleep is what their mind is telling them isn't what they want to hear. You could picture this? They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that they're poor. They don't want to hear that they're unimportant. They don't want to hear that they're unsuccessful. They don't want to hear that life is boring. Okay? They don't like the message of the mind. So because of that, it says there are 3 people who are despised by Hashem. One of them is a drunkard. Okay, so that was a big mistake. But that isn't the only thing he did. Remember, he was a tzaddik. So this is a normal and understandable human response, not a good response, but an understandable response. He also made another response. What else did he do? He offered sacrifices. So this is really radical when you consider that the huge miracle that he was able to contain quadrillion species of animals in this ark, which was definitely a miracle. I mean, the ark itself was divided into 3 floors. I mean, like, the whole thing was miraculous. So why did he do this? So what I want to talk to you now is about sacrificial offerings. And today, what replaces sacrificial offerings? Do you know? Prayer. So we have to talk about what sacrificial offerings were ever for, and how prayer replaces it, and why Noach had to go there. Okay, so the word in Hebrew for a sacrificial offering is korban, which comes from the word karov. Do any of you know the word karov? Close. You can only bring something close if it's not close, right? So if you want to draw close to Hashem, the big problem is the whole concept of God is abstract, and we live lives that are very concrete. Could you see where that's the problem? So I'll give you an illustration of this. Picture yourself at the bris of your first son. Wow, it's so moving, so special. Okay, they get to the naming part, and then, you know, like everybody says, what are the wishes you give for a child? Have you been to a religious bris? Okay, so here's what they say. He should grow to Torah, chuppah, and good deeds. Now, could you picture yourself there, like tears streaming down your face, and you really mean it? Yes, he should have Torah, he should have good deeds, I should see him married. Okay, yeah? Okay. Fast forward 6 years. He's 6, but he's short. Okay, he'll grow, but right now he's short. So you get on the train that goes from Yerushalayim to Haifa, which cost, I think it's 36 shekels, I'm not sure. Okay, now if he's 4 or 5, he doesn't pay. But if he's 6, that's like 36 shech out of your pocket. They don't have youth fare. At least they didn't for a while. I don't know if they do now or not. I haven't gone a while. So could you picture yourself tempted not to pay for him? Like nobody will look at him and say 6. He looks 4. Okay, yeah? And just to be sure, you tell him, if the inspector comes on and he says, how old are you? You say 4. Don't say 6 and 4. Okay, you could picture yourself saying that? Okay. Now this is the same child who said he should go to Torah, to good deeds. Now, you didn't say he should be a liar to save 36 shach. You didn't say that, did you? So what happened? Why are you the one who's like destroying your own dream? What are you doing? What's happening? If somebody at the bris would have said, you're going to be the one who teaches him how to lie for small amounts of money, what would you have said? God forbid. Okay, yeah. Okay, so what happened is that 36 shekels are concrete and spiritual vision is not. That's the problem. Okay, so our physicality makes us far from Hashem, even though our spiritual souls draw us close. So we live with a lot of conflict. Okay, could you see where this is so? So forget about the bris, the child, the train. Here you are here in Neve. Okay, you learned the 10 commandments, right? Okay, one of them is don't steal. Okay, now here's something that never happens in Neve. What? I really like to steal. Is it really that bad? Okay. Nobody ever asks that question. Yeah? Okay. But your roommate goes to Angel's and she comes back with a bag full of cookies. And she leaves them on the table and leaves the apartment. She's going out with friends. Did she invite you? No. Okay, whatever. Okay. And there are the cookies on the table. It's a pretty big bag. There are at least like 25 cookies in this bag. Is she going to ever know if you take 2? No, she's not going to go, 21, 22, there were 20. Okay. That's not going to happen. So you can get away with it, right? Okay, be honest. Could you picture taking a cookie or 2? She's never going to know. It's only cookies.
No.
She would never do it. But the rest of us, okay, yeah. Okay, so that's not because like you decided after hearing the class about how the flood came because of petty theft, and like how the 8th commandment is don't steal. That you said, I really think stealing is a good idea after all. I really like want to allegiance myself to like, taking, social chaos, denial of God's providence. That's my thing. That's not what happened. It's the cookies are concrete and don't steal is abstract. You could see this? So what keeps you away from God is the concrete nature of the world, which is epitomized by what we're going to call the animal soul. So I'm not talking about the body. The body goes wherever you take it. Your spiritual self could take it to one place, your animal self could take it to somewhere else. The animal soul is the instinctive self. Okay, have you all been on the seafood diet? You know that diet, right? Seafood, eat it. Okay, so that's the animal self. The animal self isn't evil. It could also be directed, but if it takes over, it's not good. The purpose of an animal sacrifice is to identify with the animal being sacrificed and to commit to raising up that aspect of yourself. Okay, got it? That's what it's for. So there are different kinds of sacrifices that were offered on different holidays, for different occasions, sometimes for atonement. All sacrifices have 4 steps in common. Some of them have additional steps, but they all have these 4. So I want you to understand this because this is going to tell you something about raising up yourself and drawing close. First thing is you select the right animal. What part of your instinctive self is holding you back? So there were several choices you could make. I'm not going to take you through all of them because of time limitations. I'm just going to take you through 2. I'm going to take you to the ram and the sheep, which are very frequent. The sheep, when you think about someone being sheep-like, like if someone wanted to introduce you to a young man, you said, what's he like? Someone would say he's sheep-like. Would you go out with him? No. So what does that convey to you, being sheep-like? Being a follower, no mind of your own. So I want to tell you something which you could like or not like. All of us are followers to some degree. Could you see where this is so? Do you catch yourself in this every so often? So I'll give you one of my worst examples in my own life. I was once in Tachana Merkazit. I wanted to get on the bus to Tel Aviv, which is usually, or Bnei Brak, I don't remember which one, but I could picture the platform in my mind. A bus that's the right number came in, but nobody else is getting on. So I waited for the next bus. You got it? Like I was thinking to myself, there's got to be something wrong. Maybe I have the number wrong. Maybe the driver doesn't look, like something's got to be wrong, because why am I the only person going on a popular route? Okay, clear that? That's following. That's stupid. Okay, clear? There have been many experiments done to show how much people follow. Are you familiar with this?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, like, look over there, those. Could following ever be good? How about if you were a Jew in Egypt and Moshe says God said to go out to the desert? Okay, so at that point it's good to follow. So following is neither good nor bad. It depends on who you, and here's the critical word, choose to follow. If it's instinctive, it's no good. If it's a choice, it could be good. Okay, clear? So one possible choice of the animal that you might want to refine is the sheep, because we follow society into crazy places. Tell me some like really crazy tendencies that today's society has. I'll tell you, want the bad news of the day? Okay, bad news of the day. Rambam says this in his great philosophical work, Guide to the Perplexed. He points out you can't rule large numbers of people against their will. Is that true or is that false? completely true historically. So for instance, the fall of the Soviet Union is because the people didn't want to be ruled by the communists any longer. The fall of the papal rulers, the Catholic Church, was only because people became less religious. In neither case was there any fighting. You understand this? Okay, so the ruler of a nation reflects the collective dream of the nation. That makes sense to you? Okay, think about where America is headed. The fact that either of the contenders, one of them will be elected. So let's say Hillary is the one elected, which is how it looks right now. What is that telling you about contemporary consciousness? Why do so many people admire her? I don't think that's the reason she'll be elected. I don't think if I was running, I'd be elected.
She's charismatic.
So charisma is admired. Tell me more. She's smart.
She's experienced.
Okay, she's smart, and that took her through having experience. And there's another component. She's successful. Okay, clear? So notice, did I say anything about moral? Did I say anything about decent? Did I say anything? Okay, clear? Trump might be elected. Since the FBI revelations, his like this, the polls are bringing him closer. He might be. I doubt it, but he might be. Why would anybody vote for Trump? What's in it for people? What do people admire in him? People admire him. He's successful. The same thing they admire in her. He's successful. What else?
He plays to people's fears.
Okay, so does she, make no mistake. He's charismatic. He's smart. He's not smart in the sense of sophistication or verbal ability. He's smart, otherwise he never would be a presidential contender. Okay, clear? So that's what's admired in contemporary society. Okay, so people follow that without questioning whether these are the most admirable traits that there are in terms of human development. You could see where this is so? Now, if you were to go far away, a different continent, what do you think the people in Russia admire the most? It's not charisma. Okay, what do they admire? Putin, if there were free elections, he'd be elected tomorrow. Why would they vote for Putin? What do they admire?
Powerful.
Strength. To them, that's much more important than charisma. That's much more important than, okay, clear? So you could tell who people are by who's leading them. Okay, this is clear? So when you're talking about not being a sheep, the question is, and who do you follow? Which is why I'm taking you to a ram. A ram is a lead animal. The sheep follow a ram. Okay, clear? What makes someone a good leader? Is wanting to be a leader necessarily good? Is it necessarily bad? So what's the deciding factor whether leadership is good or bad?
The people who are being led want to be led by that leader.
So again, the people of America want to be led by someone who's charismatic, successful, and smart. Is that necessarily going to take them to any place good? Not necessarily. Maybe, but maybe not. The people of Russia want to be led by someone strong. Historically, has that taken the Russian people to any place good? Definitely not. Okay, so that's good leadership. So it's concerned with the other. Okay, bad leadership is when you want the respect, the fear of having followers. You understand this? Okay, so here are two things that the instinctive self. So with animals, what are the lead animals? What do they want? Power. That's all they want. Okay, there's no thought of the other and the benefit of the, clear? So those are two traits you might want to refine in the animal self. There are 4 more possibilities. Okay, clear? Step 1 is you choose the right animal. Step 2, the animal sacrifices could only be done when we were on a spiritual level high enough for the temple to exist. So they can't be done now. You go to the temple. The next step is called smicha. You put your hands on the animal and you lean against it so you feel its life force, so you're totally identified with it. Okay, clear? Next step, which is the most important step, a shochet comes, kills the animal. The way an animal is killed for food, no difference. The shochet doesn't even have to be a kohen. But as the blood flows out, it has to be contained in special, holy, sanctified vessels. Now here's the most important idea of a korban. These traits are part of you. We like to lead, we like to follow. And there are other things we like. We have physical desires we like to pursue. We like to nurture, which could be self-interested or not. Okay, we like all sorts of things. Anything could be good if it's in the right vessel. So I'll give you Rambam's example of this. His example fits boys more than women, but like, do you know guys, like think teenage boys who you've known in your life, or boys who are a little bit older, okay, who like action. Like, boys who like action, yeah? Okay. So what's the worst place that could go? Animals like action, they love hunting, yeah? Not just for food. Violence, gangs, okay. Are gangs popular? Yeah, they are. What are some nice words for gangs? Militias. Okay, those are nice words for gangs. That's real. Sometimes all it is the desire to belong to something with power. Okay, so that's a bad place to go. So he says, suppose you like that kind of action. Be an emergency ward doctor. Okay, go where the blood and guts are. Heal people. Be a surgeon. Okay, yeah? Be a shochet. Be a mohel. Okay? But you can't say I'm going to be a different kind of person. That's not going to work. Okay, so the holy vessel means you don't spill the blood out and say, oh, I'll have no animal self. No, I'm going to put it somewhere. Okay, clear? That's the third step. And the last step is some part of the animal. It depends on which sacrifice, how much, which parts are burnt on the altar, to show you that sometimes you have to say no and say, not here. Not here. Okay, so what you're doing through the sacrificial offering is experientially offering your animal self back to Hashem. Who gave you an animal self? Where'd that come from? Where'd it come from? It's from Hashem. Why did he give you an animal self? He could have just made you spiritual and perfect. Why did he give you this animal self? To give you free will, to empower you. Okay, clear? Okay, so that's what a sacrifice is. Next thing, which would you think affects you more? Dreaming about finding the right man and having a baby, or actually finding the right man and having a baby? Which one affects you more? The dream or the reality?
Dream.
For you, the dream? I think for some people, the reality. Could you see this? What? They're in different ways, but what I'm saying, if something is concrete, again, abstract and concrete usually wins. Okay, so the sacrifices could change us in ways that words can't change us because they were concrete. You understand this? When you would see what you see as the animal self being sacrificed, that was like hugely dramatic and concrete. Prayers are meant to be recognition that everything we are and have comes from God, and we're offering ourselves to Hashem. We are drawing closer, not just the animal self, the whole self. So Noach offered sacrifices. Why? Because he said the reason for all of this destruction is that the animal self went wild. It was totally distanced. People were takers, they were murderers, they were promiscuous, they were thieves, okay? The animal self had taken over human consciousness, and he offered sacrifices. So we have him doing two things now. One thing is escape, but the other thing is building. So he was complex, just like who? Just like all of us, we're all complex. You could see this? So God's response to the sacrifices is one of the most interesting verses in the whole Torah. God says, I will never destroy the world this way again because. Now, what do you think the because will be? If you were finishing the sentence, how would you end it? I will never do this again because. So I would have thought it would end because Noach is able to turn the tides. It's not what it says. It says because human hearts are inclined to evil from their early youth. Okay, meaning God said, I won't destroy the world again because I know what you're up against. Okay, clear? So that's the commitment that the world will not be destroyed in this way ever. The concrete manifestation of this commitment is the rainbow. What does a rainbow have to do with this? Especially since a rainbow is beautiful. Most people wouldn't associate a rainbow. Well, you guys are almost like you were before the flood. If it wasn't for my commitment, man, you'd be gone. Okay.
You see the rainbow after it rains, and if it rains too hard,
Okay, so one is it's connected to rain, but there's something else, and I want you to grasp this. The colors of the spectrum of the rainbow, what's the reason physically that you see color? What color is light?
White.
Okay, white. So why do we see color? It refracts and it's picked up differently by different pigments. So the 7 colors of the spectrum symbolize in Kabbalah the 7 different phases or middos of the spiritual soul. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, those. So God is saying, I see that no matter what you become, this is still there. There's still light, there's still beauty. Okay, so this is what a rainbow is for. But God said also, and this is what we're going to spend the rest of the class discussing, before the flood, everything was on a higher level. People lived much longer, they had much greater depth intellectually and spiritually.
Is that why it said Noah lived for 900 years?
So no, Noach actually lived for 600 and some odd years, but Adam lived for 930 years. Okay, so the reason why lifespan became dramatically less after the flood, why did he allow things to spiral out of control so that he had to erase everything and restart, which is what I think you're asking.
Not exactly. You said, maybe you can repeat it, because I don't remember exactly, but it's because why you won't destroy it again was
Because we're so limited.
right.
So what he did was therefore to cut down lifespan so that we wouldn't be able to dig our holes that deep any longer. To how should I phrase it? This is equivalent to a parent telling a child, now that you almost burnt down the house, I'm taking away the matches. So that way I don't have to worry about the house burning down.
So it was necessary
To give people the initial chance. Yeah,
because it was our own fault.
right.
We destroyed all and said it.
Right. It was necessary. That was a necessary phase. Okay. So lifespan went down. The world is now polluted in a way that it wasn't before the flood. Many species of animals were extincted. It's a new world. But we also get rules to the game to prevent us from ever letting things spiral out of control. Initially, Adam didn't have stated rules. He had to intuit what to do with the world. He was told, guard it, work it, but not how to. So what we're going to talk about now are what we call the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, the 7 Noachide commandments. Okay, so this is the core of what we'll call general morality. So what that means is because people are human, people are not animals. We don't only have animal souls, we have spiritual souls. It's right to have expectations from any human being. So when people say, well, you can't blame them, it's not their fault, it's the society in which they live. So really what you're saying is, I don't see them as human. So, meaning I don't believe that they have something in them that would allow them to make moral choices. So what often is presented as liberalism is actually racism. Could you see where this is so? So I'll give you a concrete example of this. One of the very early, do you know what deconstructionalism is in philosophy and in literature? You know what that is? So I'll forget my plan to tell you something. I forget about deconstructionism. One of the first books that introduced moral relativism to the political scene through the popular readerhood was a book called Soul on Ice. Did any of you read this? Okay, so it's a very well-written book. It's about living in the inner city of Philadelphia and how much rage a black young man of that era would feel. And why that should logically, if he has his manhood, if he has his sense of pride, that should lead him to wanting to burn down, all of the stores, the homes of his oppressors. So when you finish the book, who do you see as the hero? Who is the hero? The guy who's burning down somebody else's home, the guy, okay, you understand this? Okay, so what is that telling you? Given where he's coming from, this is the expected response, and people buy this. But I want to tell you what you're really saying. So put him aside. Okay, clear? Okay, what I'm telling you next is a true story. It's not a book, it involves people I know. When I was in high school in Beis Yaakov, most of, the vast majority of the girls in my class were the children of Holocaust survivors. That was like generationally how it worked. So maybe like in a class of, let's say, 35 girls, or maybe 5, we called ourselves the American girls, even though all of the girls were born in America, but we were the ones with the American parents, so we were like our own little sub-society. So one of them one of the girls who had Holocaust survival parents was a girl whose name was Batsheva Papir. And her parents had a bakery in Borough Park, okay? So when they came to America, what did they come with? What do you think? Picture them. Absolutely nothing. What do they have behind them? Whole lives that were taken away from them by force, without any justification, without any repayment, without anything. So when they got here, how did they survive even the first 2 days? How did they, So all refugees have stories, but basically there was some level of commitment on the Jewish communities through an organization called the Joint to give them at least some place to stay for like a very limited amount of time and small amounts of money. Okay, so now you go fast forward, hard work, the bakery, okay, children in schools, boys in yeshiva, they're paying tuition. Okay, you have the picture? Okay, so 2 black teenagers go into the store, rob them, burn the store, and beat them. This actually happened. Okay, clear? Now, the police came. This and what they said became so hugely controversial. Now remember, the vast majority of Holocaust survivors, how old were they when the Holocaust was over?
Really
Young, because in their 20s or in their teens, because people much older than that didn't have the physical strength to survive. How long was the Holocaust for? How long was it? How many years are we talking about? 5 years. So a 19-year-old Holocaust survivor was how old when it all began? 14. So most of them had no education. I want you to realize this. So somebody sticks a microphone in front of Mr. Papir's face and said, do you understand the other side, why these people who were so underprivileged and who were so beaten down by society came in and burnt your store? And he said, and this became, you can't even imagine the negativity, like whatever you're picturing was much worse. He said, they're a bunch of black animals. That's what he said. And then in case the person didn't get it, he said it in Yiddish, because what does he know from the media? He said, Schweizer Chayes. Okay, clear? Most people immediately saw who was the villain. Who became the villain? He became the villain. You understand this? So when he was saying that, and I wanted to, because I understand where he was coming from, as much rage as he felt, as much victimization as he suffered, it never occurred to him that he should go to somebody else's store and burn it down. When he was still in Germany in a DP camp, he never would have gone into Regensburg and randomly burned down a bakery. Why not?
It's animalistic to do so.
Because he saw his own human side as being what he wanted to survive. Now, what he couldn't understand, what you and I understand, is that to a large degree, the young black teenagers never were introduced to their non-animal side. That's what he can't understand or relate to. Okay, clear? You understand this? Okay, so my purpose in telling you this isn't to justify verbal racism. It's to tell you that when people say they can't help it, it's patronizing, it's emasculating, and it's treating people as though they have no spiritual potential. Could you see where this is so? Okay. So with that in mind, the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach are universal. We believe any human is capable of them. So I'm going to tell you what they are. The first one is don't murder. So the definition of murder is killing someone who's of no threat to you. Give me an example of murder as it takes place in the world. Why do people murder? To get what they want. So could you hear the animal voice there? People murder because somebody is a member of the wrong tribe. They're not my species. Okay, clear? So we believe any human being is human enough to not murder. Okay, clear? Does that make sense to you? Okay, next one. The next one is don't commit adultery. Meaning if there's someone in your life who you're bonded to, then you value your own relationships. So don't destroy somebody else's relationship. Could you see where this is reasonable? Okay. So there's a group, I'm trying to remember what they called again. A group that last year kidnapped 358 young women. They're called the Haram Boha or something like this. I don't remember the word after Haram. Do you know who I'm talking about? Okay, so how do you think they justify just randomly capturing women, using them, and selling them? Boka Haram, that's what they are, yeah. Okay, so they justified it by saying, these women are not of our religion, culture, tribe, and we need the money that they're bringing in. But what didn't they see, even for a minute? What? They're human. Okay, clear? Next, don't steal. Does everybody value their own property? So you don't have to be you don't have to be a brilliant philosopher or a spiritual giant to realize, the other person also values their property. Okay, let's look at a Western hero, Robin Hood. Did you watch, when you were growing up, was Robin Hood still on TV? Okay, do people admire Robin Hood or not admire Robin Hood? Is he the good guy or the bad guy? He's the good guy. Why? Because he's stealing from the to give to the. Okay, what's the problem there? Okay, he's not giving his own money to the poor. He's like, if Robin Hood was Friar Tuck and he said, I decided to live simply and give everything away to the poor, okay. But giving somebody else's money to the poor, that's like not human. You got this? Okay. Okay, next. The next four are harder to understand. The first three are very easy. Next of the last four, ripping a limb off a living animal. Okay. When do people do this? This would mean any kind of killing an animal or hurting an animal except through very painless means in order to eat. How do people do this in society even today? Hunting. Is hunting respectable? Depends on by who. The English royal family, it certainly is. In the American South, it certainly is. Okay, I'm talking about killing animals just for the joy of the hunt and the pursuit, not even using the animal. Okay, clear? Why? How should a person know that that's a bad idea? Bullfights, think of that, which is like so ghastly. How should a person know that a bullfight is not a good... Did any of you ever see a bullfight? Neither did I, but I saw... did you read... what's the name of this short story by Hemingway? About the bull runs in Pamplona. I think it might have been called... Do you know what I'm talking about? So even today, there's a city in Spain called Pamplona, where they, before the great bullfight that will take place, it's on Saint Somebody or Other's Day, they release all the bulls to the street. The streets there are narrow, and it's considered to be like really something to sort of run with the bulls and try to escape being killed by them. And it all ends with the bulls being like driven into an arena and killed by matadors who are presented, of course, as being very noble and very... What's the problem there? Any of you see a problem? It's very stupid, but besides that, did the bulls do anything wrong? No. Do they suffer? Why do people enjoy that? Obviously, people enjoy it. And if those of you who read, if you like Hemingway, you want to be there when you read this. You want to run with the bulls, okay? Think animal. We're talking about animal soul. Animals love the hunt. The adrenaline flows. It's exciting. It's extremely animalistic. Okay, it's cruel. It's unhuman. Okay, clear? Next one. Okay, next one is idol worship. So idol worship for non-Jews is a different frame than for Jews. For a non-Jew, worshiping an idol could either mean totally denying the existence of any force that brought anything about, like the atheists, or it could mean thinking the idol itself actually has creative power. Not that it symbolizes a God with creative power, or together with this person like Buddha or Jesus or whomever, God created the world, but they actually think that Ganesh, the elephant, okay, really has power. Okay, clear? What's so bad about idol worship? In general, we've been raised to think that everybody could believe whatever they want to believe. So if somebody thinks that Thor brought about the world, and he has this big picture of a lightning bolt, and he worships it every day, that's his problem. What does it have to do with me? Why should I worry about it? What's the problem with idol worship?
If you don't believe in God, then you're not obligated to anything.
You're not accountable to anything. Not just you don't, okay, clear? So this is serious. Okay, next, and this is related, cursing God. Okay, so if you already believe that there's a force that brought everything about, in your embitterment, if life doesn't go as you want, some people will say, we have to not only not believe or whatever, we have to prevent people from believing, like the Stalinists. Okay, why? Did any of you actually read the manifesto? People talk about it without having read it. Did any of you read it? So atheism is a part of it. It's like one of Marx's basic tenets. Why do you think atheism was such a big deal to Marxists? The people who want to grasp leadership for themselves and be like the head animal in the lead, the corrupted ram, to that person, God is a competitor, and belief in God has to be eliminated. So that's not good. The last thing is establishing courts of justice. So all societies have some law. Do you realize that? Which I think is amazing. Even extremely primitive societies, there might be societies that I haven't heard about, but the most primitive society that I ever heard about were the Micronesian societies and the societies of Papua New Guinea. So how do they rule themselves? Do you know? Not so much different than other people. Not so much different than the American Supreme Court. Okay, they have a longhouse. They'll have tribal leadership. They have laws, and I'm going to define for you what makes a law a just law. And they'll see that people who break the laws are punished. Very, very similar paradigms to any kind of system. What kind of a law is an important law or a good law? Any law that protects the weak from the strong is a good law. So in the jungle, the weak animals don't survive. There's a pyramid. Okay, humans know that pyramid is not meant to define our societies. That makes sense to you? So that's it. That's universal morality. So today we have three things. We have the sacrifices, we have drunkenness, and we have the rainbow. And we have our response to those three things, which is believing that every human being has the potential to keep the universal laws of morality. Okay? More tomorrow. Okay.